Hey there, it's Mario here, and in this video you're gonna find the most common errors when it comes to why you're not losing weight, right? That's a question that I often get, and I pretty much get it every single day, and usually is accompanied by a lot of exclamation marks, a lot of question marks, a lot of things people are wondering, and they're asking me, well, is it my genetics? Is it my slow metabolism? Is it, I don't know, am I eating the wrong foods? Am I doing something wrong in my exercise plan? Should I do higher reps? Should I lower my rest period? Do I need to add more cardio? And a lot of these questions come in, and simple fact is like you're not losing weight, right? So what is the most common error when it comes to this situation? Well, it's usually, I'll say like 99.9% of cases, the most obvious and the most simplest one is that you're simply not generating a caloric deficit, right? That means that you're either overestimating how low you are with your calories, or you're simply overestimating how much calories you're burning through exercise. And both are very, very common mistakes, because we as human beings, we really can't estimate. We're horrible at estimating our dietary intake, and there's been a bunch of studies on this, and I'm gonna leave them in the description below so you guys can check that out. I mean, it's quite obvious that we suck at estimating our calories. So it really is coming down to that caloric balance, and that is it, right? No matter how healthy you eat, no matter how clean you think you're eating, or whatever foods you're eating, if you're not in a caloric deficit, there's not going to be any weight loss. You can do hours and hours of cardio, you can be training 6-7 times a week, but if there's no deficit, there's not going to be any fat burning, right? And what are the most common things? Like, what are the most common things people get wrong? Well, the first thing is that people usually, they are either not tracking, or they're just trying to estimate their intake. And as I said, we're really horrible at estimating. The second thing is that maybe people are just not tracking certain ingredients, maybe a couple of snacks here and there, they don't pay that much attention. So it's that lack of mindfulness when it really comes to that. Or in the end, they may be tracking, but they're just simply measuring things wrong. So some of the most common things that I've noticed with clients when I really sit down with them, and we break down everything, and we kind of figure out, hey, shit, I mean, you're eating close to your maintenance rather than being in a deficit. So the common things are, like, for example, not tracking your cooking oil. That's a couple of hundred calories right there. One tablespoon of cooking oil is actually about 200 calories. You can see how much that can compound if you cook a couple of times a day. Things like, maybe they add 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, and then it's actually about 2 if you just look at it. It's just a subjective kind of measurement. Maybe people don't track, like, that 1 glass of natural fruit juice they had, which also has about 200 calories. There's many different things that will just add on to this. Things like a handful of nuts as you were walking by the table, you just grab that. Maybe some snack that they really didn't give much thought to, but it was very high calories. Maybe I actually ordered a salad in a restaurant, and they give you a salad dressing, which is really high calorie. And there's a lot of added calories to this stuff, and if we're not really paying attention, this compounds to us blowing our deficit, right? There's a deficit of only a couple of hundred calories that is necessary to lose weight, and it's easy to lose that deficit, right, if we're not paying attention. And another common one is that people will really stick for 5 days to their diet, and they will really track everything, be on point, but then when the weekend comes, in those 2 days, they will overeat so much that they will lose that deficit. And that's a very common thing I see, because I guess people fall into that trap of, like, oh yeah, I need a cheat day, I need a cheat meal, I had a really good week, and they're gonna blow out their complete deficit in those 2 days. And that's a very common mistake I see. So if you're doing everything right, I mean, the big idea is that you could be training your fucking ass off for 7 times a week. You could be doing hours of cardio. You could be doing, all your food could be very healthy food, like chicken, broccoli, rice, whatever quote unquote healthy means. You could be eating, like, clean. You can be doing everything, all one of these things, but they will not contribute to your weight loss, simply because you're not obeying that energy balance rule, right? The energy balance that we're coming back to, quick law of something coming from physics, is the first law of thermodynamics, right? The energy has to be conserved, right? The energy can't come from nowhere. The energy either has to be ingested, or it has to be expended from somewhere. So you can't really gain a mass without having an energy source, or you can't lose mass without converting that energy source to something. So you gotta have to eat less or exercise more. That's very simple, right? And it is a little bit, that is pretty much when we cover all the intake factor. But what about the out, right? Because we know it's like in versus out. So what happens in out? Well, there's different ways that you could burn calories, different ways you can expend calories. So For example, the way if we broke it down into a real formula, it could be your physical activity, your basal metabolic rate, your non-exercise activity, and your dietary induced thermogenesis, right? These are the 4 factors how your body can actually burn calories. So let's break down each one of these. So basal metabolic rate, simply the amount of calories your body burns depending on your age, your weight, your height, and that's your resting caloric expenditure, right? If you're not doing anything, that's how many calories you're burning, simply through your organs, like different kinds of things, that different body functions. The dietary induced thermogenesis is the fact that you're simply ingesting food, and simply by ingesting food, you need to spend some calories to process that food. And then we have 2 factors that we have the most control of, and that's physical exercise, where you simply go to the gym or you deliberately try to increase your fitness level through cardio or some other form of exercise. This can produce a nice little caloric expenditure amount, but it's not that much. Then we have the final factor, which is the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, right? This is your non-exercise activity. So this means, like, are you sitting down all day? Or are you standing up? Are you doing a treadmill desk? Are you walking around all day? What's your job, right? Are you sedentary most of the time, bound to a chair or like all day? Versus someone who's a school teacher who's on their feet for like 6-7 hours and extra throughout the day. That can compound to an extra 600-700 calories burned. And this non-exercise activity thermogenesis is the factor, I think, in the modern age that makes the most difference. Even if someone is training for 5-6 times a week in the gym, like I would consider myself very active, but if my non-exercise thermogenesis is very low, it means that I'm sedentary most of the other time, I will not be able to create enough of that deficit through exercise. I will have to really cut my calories very, very low. And that is the point where I want to, I guess, shift your attention a little bit to, is to understand that even the fact that you're exercising, and if you're keeping track on your diet, if you're not measuring your calories, and if you're not also measuring your non-exercise activity, you have a very low chance of actually succeeding in this. Few factors that can play a role, even if you are doing all of these things that I mentioned, could be a simple weight loss plateau with water accumulation. That is a very common one. People will accumulate water mass if their cortisol levels are too high. Maybe for girls, it can be like their menstrual cycle, and all these things can play a role. But it's usually solved through simple patience, simply being more patient and waiting for that water to just simply flush out, and then you can actually see on the weight scale how that water weight has changed. Other things can be you're using your weight scale wrong. So there's different ways to use the weight scale. There's the wrong and the right way, and there's many mistakes that you can also make with that. So I also made a video on that, so I'm going to leave that in the description below so you guys can check that out. And the bottom line is here that it's not enough for you to eat healthy and exercise a lot. You really need to keep an eye on your energy expenditure, on your caloric intake, and you need to be tracking this. So guys will misunderstood this, and they think like, oh yeah, shit, I need to be tracking this for the rest of my life. Well, that's not really the case, but you do need to track it for at least a week or two to know, okay, if my weight is not changing, at how many calories am I eating, right? And then once you figure that out, okay, let me cut that by 15-20%, and then that will generate enough of deficit for me to continue losing weight. So the bottom line here is that you need to be in a caloric deficit regardless of what the hell you're eating. So you could be eating Pop-Tarts, ice cream, and pancakes all day, and if you're in a caloric deficit, you will be losing fat if you're training. And if you're eating healthy all day, you can eat chicken, broccoli, rice all day, and just stuff your face with that. And if you're not in that deficit, there's not going to be any weight change. Simple as that, right? So that's something most people don't understand. I think people are still falling into those myths that it's some kind of special food, that it's some kind of metabolism issue, which is really not the case. As I said, with most people out there, their thyroid works pretty good and they're not deficient in anything, but it's simply the fact that they're just eating too much, or they think they're eating too low, but it's in reality it's a lot higher amount. So that is about it for this quick video here on the answer of the question, why are you not losing weight? So this is the bottom line. There's no chance in hell that you will not be getting to your goal if you simply apply the things that I said in this video. And let me know in the comments below if you're currently on a diet, or if you're struggling, are you getting toward your goal? So if you have any questions on this, just leave it in the comments below. As always, I answer all the questions. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to click subscribe below. Share the video with your friends if they are asking you the same question, and this will help them out a lot. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.